Hello, everyone. Welcome back. Whoopsies. All right. It's what is it? Sunday morning. Morning of the last day. Kind of sad. We've only got one throwing final left and no more qualifying rounds. But last night we had two finals. Yesterday morning we had men's discus qualifying. So we have got a lot of things to talk about. Women's shot was definitely not as expected. Men's discus, there were some surprises there in qualifying. And then women's jav, um, what do you even say about women's jav at this point? I mean, this year has been so strange and kind of like uneven for women's jav. Um, and just nobody's really like kind of firmly taken the reins of the global stage. And so we really had no idea how this one would play out. And when I was when I was doing my preview with Bo, we were making our predictions. I was like, you could ask 10 different people to give you podiums. They could give you 10 different answers and none of them would be right. And I'll up that now to you could ask a million people to give you not even in order, just the three women that landed on the podium. And literally none of them would be right because this competition was insane. Someone said it was like women's shot in Paris last year all over again. And I disagree. Like the fact that none of Chase, Jessica, or Sarah medaled last year was really weird. Especially considering they were all much clearer favorites to medal than anyone was in women's javelin. But I mean, Yemi like threw 20 indoors, and I think did Yemi get bronze at World Indoors last year? I think she might have. And then like Maddie had been a consistent, really good championship performer. And then I mean, I guess maybe Song Yan winning bronze was kind of random. Um, but I mean, she had also put together some really good throws and had a lot of experience on that global stage. So this one was just I don't even know how to explain it, and I'm gonna kind of save that for last because I need time to process it still, even though it's been like 13 hours since the competition ended now. All right, enough hubbub to get us started. Let's hop into women's shot put. This one is, just like we saw in the men's. Unfortunately, World Athletics hates shot putters and makes them do qualifying and the final on the same day. Um, in qualifying this morning, not really a ton of surprises, or I guess yesterday morning. Not really a ton of surprises. It wasn't really a surprise, but disappointing to see Maggie Ewan fail to make it through. I talked with Maggie a little bit after, and it was just like the elbow injury she picked up um, before the Zurich Diamond League um, that really kind of just messed everything up for her. And, I've talked about it a little bit, but it's just really unfortunate because she was so close to being like all the way back to 2023 Maggie. Um, but then just injuries suck. In a competition like yesterday's, like she could have ended up on the global podium. But we'll never know. But we do know because I asked Maggie about this yesterday. 2026, she's coming back to the hammer. I don't know why exactly you would willingly subject yourself to the bloodbath that is the US women's hammer scene. But I mean, what? Maggie's thrown like 75 before. Um, like she's obviously insanely good at hammer. I'm gonna double check that because I just don't wanna sound really, really stupid. What is Maggie Ewan's hammer PB? 75-10. Gosh, I know ball. Um, but yeah, so Maggie coming back to the hammer is exciting. Um, it's just one more really excellent woman in that field. Um, so yeah, nothing really that interesting to report out of qualifying yesterday morning. And then we come to the final. And the last couple or the 2 world championships that Chase Jackson has won, she's won it on the very, like, first, maybe not the first throw of the competition, but definitely her first attempt. And this time, she was first in the order, same way Val was in the women's discus, and she went 19.55. And so right off the bat, you're like, "Okay, she's gonna have to work a little harder for this one." Um, and this one, it took a while to get going, um, because you had Sarah Mitten start off in 1976, solid mark, Jessica Schilder, 18.23, and then towards the end of the first round, it was Maddie Weshy doing Maddie Weshy things and going 20.06, equaling her PB, and I think that's now, like, aside from World Indoors this year, it's like 5 or 6 straight major championships, indoor and out, that Maddie has either set or equaled a PB, because she just somehow, some way knows how to perform in a championship setting like that. And for a while, that throw for Maddie was well ahead of everyone else. Like, Chase was just kind of missing it, like, her throws were 19.55, foul, 19.43, 19.67, and then another foul. So those were Chase's first 5 throws. Um, Sarah was faring a little better, she had 2 1980s in there, um, but who was in so for most of the competition, the podium was, Maddie, Sarah, Chase, and then I think Fanny Roos was in 4th for most of the time, Yemi was in 5th, and then I think Jessica Schilder was in 6th. And there really wasn't a ton of movement, really. It was just kind of a stable podium. And then round 6 comes, and it was like, watching this competition was so weird because there was just so much tension. Like, maybe not necessarily between the athletes, because, like, most of them are best friends, um, but just sitting there in the stands watching this one, it's like, "Okay, we are 1 round in, and there's 1 throw over 20. We're 2 rounds in, and there's 1 throw over 20. 3 rounds in, only 1 throw over 20 with this field, and obviously, like, the conditions were so not built for them to throw far. Like, I talked to Chase about it, and I have a really good interview with her. Okay, that sounds egotistical. It's a really good interview because of her, not because of me. There we go. But I talked with her after the competition about just what a nightmare yesterday was for all of those women. And basically, Chase said, like, she woke up at like 4 a.m. and then, like, had to throw in the qualifying round. I think they started at like 10:30 maybe. And then, just like the bus from the, like, hotel to the warm-up track, and then from the warm-up track to the stadium, and there's so many logistical things working against not just, the throwers, but kind of everyone in this field. It's everyone in this competition, I should say. It's kinda just heightened by the fact that the throwers, um, have to do all of it, or at least the shot putters have to do all of it in 1 day, twice. And it's another factor, like, I think Ryan talked about it, but, like, it is also true the shot putters are the biggest people here. And so them needing to deal with all of this and, like, warming up and then warming up again and then warming up again, like, 9 hours later and walking around a lot, and it's really hot. Like, there are just so many things working against these people to throw far, and I mean, that's why, like, the men's competition, there's so many amazing men in that field. Only one guy broke 22. Um, who was it? The GOAT. This field, there's so many incredible women that were in this competition, and for the first 5 rounds, only one woman had managed to break 20. Um, so there was just a really lot of factors that none of them could really control that were unfortunately impacting the way this competition played out. Um, so that's what it was. It's just like just watching this competition, I was just so, like, on the edge of my seat the whole time because 'cause I'm like, "This I it feels like 2006 can't win this world title, like, something is about to happen." And then we get to round 6, and I think Jessica Schilder was first in the order when we got to that 6th round, and she comes out and she smacks one, goes 20-29 in round 6 to move into the lead. Um, Absolutely massive moment, and, like, you could see I mean, I was sitting, where was I? Like, 4 levels up, basically, and you could see, like, just how much this one meant to her, um, and it was just such a cool moment, but then you're like, "Okay, someone just" like, early in round 6, with a lot of women still left to throw, someone just made a statement. Someone just put a mark out there for people to chase. And then Chase responds, and Chase Jackson goes 20-21 to move into silver. Because this Chase talked about it after, um, and she was like, "Yeah, I was sitting in bronze for a long time, but, like, I kind of got complacent because I was like, I'm still in a medal position." And then when Jessica went 20-29, bumped Chase down to 4th, like, a switch flipped in her head, and she was like, "I need to go into kill mode now." Um, and 2021, like, it's obviously really impressive for Jessica to throw 2029 and for Chase to throw 2021. Like, those are really good marks regardless of when they happen, considering all of the stuff that these women had to deal with yesterday. Truly incredible. And then Sarah gives it a good crack in, in round 6 to try and get back in the medals, but unfortunately comes up a little shy. And then, Maddie couldn't answer, but still comes away with bronze. So we end up, despite everything, despite the fact that for most of this competition, it looked like it would not be the case. We end up with a whole podium over 20. Jessica Schilder winning a first world title in 2029. Um, One second. I'm completely blanking on something. Okay. Jessica did she got silver at World Indoors this year. That's what I thought. So this is her first global title of any sort. Um just really exciting moment because now her, Chase, and Sarah all one way or another have world titles. So like kind of I guess the big three, if you want to call them that, which I think I have called them that many times, of this era of women's shot putting now all can claim the title of world champion at some point in their careers. So that's cool, and it's fun. Like obviously, Chase was such a ginormous favorite heading into this competition, so it is just like pretty shocking to see the competition break this way where she doesn't win. Um, but obviously Jessica is such a worthy champion, especially the way she did it, like, in round 6, reminiscent of Yemi going 20 on the dot in round 6 last year to win the Olympic title. Um, yeah, it's really, really impressive. It was also a little slick out there, it looked like. There was a little bit of water in the ring maybe, from a little earlier in the competition, so that was just another factor into the conditions kind of working against all these women, but it was still a fun comp. I mean, anytime you have a round 6 like that where the medals just get completely shifted around, um, That's gonna be awesome. It's a little heartbreaking for Sarah. The last 2 years, she's won world indoor titles and then failed to medal at the outdoor championships, looking at Paris and now Tokyo. So, you hate to see it, but Sarah's still one of the best, I guess, if we're talking about, like, Valerie having the clean world record or whatever, we can say Sarah Min is one of the best clean shot putters in history. And, I just hope 2027, I hope, the hotel is closer to the warm-up track and the warm-up track is closer to the stadium, and the qualifying round isn't the same day as the final. And I just hope that there are a lot more things built into this competition to help these women throw far. Because the last 2 years, obviously, it was rain and kind of some underperformances in Paris that held us back from it, but, like, I really, really wanna see in a global championship setting, I really, really wanna see just, like, peak Chase, Jessica, and Sarah just duking it out. That'd be so much fun. There was one last kind of note on the women's shot. Um, Interesting tidbit for my interview with Chase. I asked her, like, because next year is the first year for women's shot specifically, the first year since 2021 without, or the first year since 2020, I guess, without a global championship at the end. I guess really if you because 2020 was not a normal season. This is kind of the first next year is kind of gonna be the first full season for the events that aren't in the World Ultimate Championships. The first full season since 2018 without a global championship at the end of it. So I asked Chase kinda, like, how she's approaching, like, setting goals for next year, and she said, "We probably will not see her next year," which obviously I'm a little sad about because watching Chase Jackson throw is one of the great joys in life. But she basically said she has just been going nonstop for the last, like, 2 or 3 years, and she just needs a break. So she said, "There's a chance if we see her, it'll only be at Diamond Leagues." Um, she referred to it as she might just pull a Krauser next year, which I hope that doesn't mean she's gonna rupture, one of the like, joint capsules in her elbow or whatever it is. Um, but it's kind of sad, obviously, because, like I said, I love watching Chase throw, but also if this break is what she needs to still be dominating in 2027, then I'm very glad she's willing to take it. And that's it's can be a hard thing for field eventers to do sometimes to, like, feel secure enough that they can take a year off essentially. So I'm very happy Chase is able to be in that position. Um, but it's yeah, so that was I'm still kind of processing how I feel about that because obviously, like, she deserves it and she's earned a break. But no, Chase, please throw 21 next year. Come on. Um Anyway, that's about it for women's shot. It was an unexpected competition. The distances maybe weren't what we thought they would be, but it was still really fun. Kind of the same way as the men's shot was. Pretty good stuff all around. All right, let's get into women's javelin now. Um, oh boy, where do we even begin with this one? Um, well, where we'll begin is the qualifying round. And the biggest thing in this qualifying round was the fact that Haruka Kitaguchi did not make the final, which it's not that surprising, um, given the way that she looked her last 2 meets. I'm not exactly sure what her injury was because I believe after Zurich, she posted something on Instagram that was like, 60 whatever she threw, like 60, 82 or something, like, not my best day, but still coming back from injury. Um, so I don't know what exactly that was, but the way she looked in Lausanne and Zurich, like, this isn't necessarily a surprise. She threw 60, 38, finished 60 centimeters, out of the final, and, it's really sad because they love Haruka here, which makes sense 'cause, Japanese fans really like track and field, and Haruka is a defending two-time global champion, so it makes sense that they love her, and if Haruka would have made the final, that would have been probably the coolest moment of the week, um, in the stadium. So we were robbed of that a little bit, but, it is I guess it's kind of comforting to know that, she was dealing with injuries earlier this year, and it's not just like she randomly is just washed now. Because I think she's what, like, 27 or 28 maybe? So Haruka will be back next year. I think women's jav is in the World Ultimate Championships, so we'll see her back at the global championship stage next year, which is exciting. Other than that, first round was pretty chalk, but there were a couple pretty significant things that happened. So, one, Adriana Vlagos threw 66.06, which is the third best mark of her career, and it's the first time she makes it through to a global final. Um, and she left it late. Because looking at her series, she went 61-22, 61-11, and then 66.06. And so those first two marks, they ended up being they would have qualified, but it would have been a little dicey rather than throwing 66.06, which was the best marking qualification. Mackenzie Little, the defending world bronze medalist from Budapest, threw 65.54, which is like a 3.5 meter season's best. And Mackenzie hadn't broken 60 until the Diamond League final in Zurich. She had competed like 7 or 8 times before then, just throwing like 57 to 59 basically. And then she gets a little breakthrough in Zurich and then a much bigger breakthrough here in the prelims. Um, and then you had Julesi Angulo of Ecuador. That is maybe the worst pronunciation of her name anyone has ever said, I presume, but she threw a PB of 63.25. Is like almost a meter PB. I think hers coming into this one was 62.33. I'm sure that is the last time that fact will be relevant in this competition. But yeah, that's about it for the women's. Alina Zdenko barely made it in. She threw 61.31 and finished 11th in qualifying, which was surprising because Diamond League champion and just has been one of the most consistent throwers in the world this year. But yeah, so Haruka, like I said, it's not really a surprise that Haruka didn't make it. But that's just kind of the most notable name missing from the final. And then we get to the final. And what what happened? Okay, let's get into it. So Mackenzie Little opens up at 63.58. Proving that the qualifying round was not a fluke of any sort. It was just she's back. And so that held as the lead for a while. Alina Jenko threw 62.72 in round one, which is a solid mark for her. Adriana Vlagos was struggling early. Her first two throws were 52 and 57, but excuse me. She ended up getting a couple throws in the low 60s, but still not her best day. She finished 8th, throwing 61.29, which Obviously, it's disappointing with the way her season went and the way she threw literally the day before in qualifying. Like, her qualifying throw would have been good enough to win the final by almost a meter, but she's 21, this is her first global final. She finished 8th in the world, which is I mean, she didn't even make the final in Budapest or in Paris, so she took steps forward this year, and she has so much more time to still be really good, and so I'm still super, super optimistic about what Adriana Vlahos's career is gonna look like. Um, okay. In round 2, do you remember the name Julesi Angulo? Um, because let me tell you what she does in round 2. She goes 65-12. 65-12 for Julesi Angulo. That's pretty crazy, for a woman whose PB coming into this competition was, I think, 62-33. Um, so she PB'd by a meter in qualifying and then PB'd by 2 meters in the final, and that held up for the world title. Julesi Angulo is your world champion in the women's javelin for 2025. Um, God, Cara Bow and I were all so wrong. I can't believe we were disrespecting the queen, Julesi Angulo. I mean, a 24-year-old Ecuadorian woman in her first global final ever throws a 2-meter PB to win a world title. That is crazy stuff. And that is something that could only happen in women's javelin this year. Like, that is just it's so weird. So weird. Really fun though, but bizarre. This is I think it's the first ever gold medal for Ecuador, in track and field, either at Worlds or at the Olympics, I think is what I heard. So, I mean, it's a huge moment for her. And now she's 24, throwing 65 meters and winning world titles. Like, it's gonna be very interesting to see how she'll be able to kind of keep up this momentum next year because you look at the 3-meter PB, like, in her first global final, and, like, it's it's possible this was just a, like, one time, like, kind of flash in the pan for her, and we don't necessarily see a replication of this anytime, but it's also a chance that this is the breakthrough she needed, and we're about to witness the rise of a, like, dominant force in women's javelin throwing. Because like, 24 is still pretty young. So she's still got a lot of development left in her, I think, and it's weird. It's a really weird result, but really fun nonetheless. And then silver, Mackenzie Little did get bumped down to bronze. Silver goes to Annette Siatina of Latvia. And Annette, 29 years old, had not PB'd since July of 2017. Um, that was the only time she had ever thrown 64 meters in her life at the European U23 Championships 8 years ago. And then she comes on the world stage and in round 6 goes 64-64 to take silver. Um, wow. She was in the Olympics last year, didn't make the final. She was 4th in Budapest, throwing 63-18, which is one of the top 10 marks of her career. So, like, she's been good on the global stage before, and she's thrown really well on the global stage before, obviously. But, I mean, PBing for the first time in 8 years in round 6, because like, she had thrown 63.3, which I think was a big season's best in round 5. So, like, she had a medal locked up already when she took her final throw, but then to PB by, like, 20 centimeters in round 6 for the first time since 2017 is so wild. Like, you could not be in more of a I guess since she had a medal locked up, there wasn't really a ton of pressure, um, because for her, like, just this was only her 2nd global final, um, so just the fact that she was getting a medal anyway was a pretty big deal, and I mean, I don't think Latvia wins medals all the time, um, so maybe she was just able to really go in there and rip one and just be like, "I've got a medal anyway." Um, but I mean, breaking an 8-year-old PB has gotta feel so, so good. So that is your podium. And I tweeted about it. I'm all right. This is gonna sound really really self-centered, but I'm really proud of this tweet. I think it's a good tweet. A podium that only women's Jav in 2025 could produce. A 24 gold is a 24-year-old Ecuadorian who had never made a final before and improved her PB from 62.33 to 63.25 in qualifying to 65.12 in the final. Silver, a 29-year-old Latvian who PB'd for the first time since 2017 with a 64.64-meter toss in round 6. And bronze, 28-year-old Aussie doctor who didn't break 60 meters this season until the Diamond League final. And for the bit about Mackenzie, that is really one of the most impressive factors of all of this is that, like, Mackenzie Little is a doctor. Um, Doctor Little is a two-time bronze medalist. But, I mean, she talked about, like, the explanation for the not so great marks at the beginning of this year were kind of just that work was really, really hectic. And so her training was super inconsistent. Um, but she's been able to get into a better rhythm recently, and it has shown on the results board very clearly. I think this has also gotta be kind of vindicating for Mackenzie because last year, in the I think it was the London Diamond League where she threw like 66 meters, set a PB like a week and a half before the Olympics, riding that high, and then she finishes 12th in the Olympic final. Um, so that couldn't have been an easy thing to experience, but now coming back onto this stage where she's kind of had an opposite season, where last year, a really good season with a ton of good marks, and then the championship doesn't go the way she wants. This year, a much harder season. The marks were not there for most of it, and yet she's a world bronze medalist now. So that moment for her has got to be a little vindicating. So who was my podium for this? My podium was Adriana Velagos gold, Alina Jenko silver, and Joanne Duplessis for bronze. She did the same thing she did in Paris last year. She threw a season's best, 63.06, finished 4th, just about 52 centimeters short of the podium. Alina finished 5th, going 62.72. Her first throw was her best throw, and then, like, she put together a solid series, but it's still kind of probably a little bit of a letdown for her given just the way her 2025 had gone. And then, like I said, Adriana, finished 8th. All I'm gonna say, put Yan Ziyi in this final and see what happens. Would have made it a lot more fun, I think. Would have if Yan Ziyi would have thrown, like, 65.50. If Yan Ziyi would have won gold, and then this podium was a 16-year-old Chinese girl, and then followed by, um, Julecy and Annette, like, that would've been up there for, I think, probably one of the weirdest podiums of all time. Um, yeah, I mean, complete flip or complete, like, switch out from the Olympic podium last year, because Nikola Ogrodnikova, bronze medalist last year, I think she is having a baby this year, so that she hasn't competed at all. And then, like I said, Joanne just missed the podium. Haruka, unfortunately, missed the final. But I mean, we've been saying it all year that women's jav is just really weird, and it would have felt wrong if the final was at all predictable. So huge congratulations to Julacey Angulo, Annette Cientina, and Mackenzie Little for stepping up. And I mean, yeah, it's weird, but also, like, those are really good marks. Like, Annette threw better than Joanne did in Paris to win silver. I think I think Haruka threw 65 maybe mid last year to win gold. So, like, it's still a pretty solid podium marks-wise. It's just very unexpected with the women who landed on it, but all props to them, obviously. Moving on to men's discus qualifying now, our final qualifying round of these championships. Um, and you know what? Really only one surprise here. Um, and it's an unfortunate surprise because it would have been a lot more fun if Ralford Mullings would have been in this final, not just for the sake of my predictions because I had him winning bronze, but just for the sake of he's really, really good. And it would have been now we only have we only have 3 guys that have PBs over 72 in this final. So honestly, it's gonna be kind of lame. Um Ralford, I spoke to him a little bit after, and his day, I mean, so his first throw is like 54 maybe. He just stepped out of the front of the circle. His second throw was measured at like 56 mid, and then he caged his third throw, which was tough to watch. I talked with him after, and basically he kinda chalked it up to the fact that the ring at the warm-up track or at the practice track they've been using was really, really slick, and then the ring inside the stadium was really slow. Um, so that kind of, uh, what's the word? Contrast really kind of messed him up. And I mean, he said it's just a matter of he needs to be more composed in a setting like this and be able to handle uncomfortability better, which makes sense because he is 22 years old. Um, right? Is Ralford 22? Is he 23? Um, he is 20. I knew he was 22. I shouldn't have second guessed myself. Um, but yeah, Ralford Mullings not making the final is a shocker. That's really kind of the only, shocker of the people that didn't make the final. You had solid days for the 3 Americans. Reggie finished 14th, Sam Addis was 20th, and then, Marcus Gustafson was 31st in his first global championship appearance. So not the worst days for them, but no Americans in the final is a little sad to see. One country who is not sad about who's gonna be in the final is Lithuania because they got all 3 of their guys very comfortably in. Um, and very strangely, the best mark by any Lithuanian yesterday was an Alekna, not strange, but it was Martinez Alekna. Because Miklas didn't end up hitting the auto cue mark of 66.50. Andreas Goodzius didn't end up hitting the auto cue mark. But on his first throw, Martinez Alekna threw 67.16, which is, I think it's 7 centimeters off his PB. And he makes his first world final to, like I said, give Lithuania 3 guys in the global discus final, which is exciting to see. And like, I don't know what necessarily his kind of ceiling is. Like, if things go according to plan today, he'd probably need to PB by 2 meters to medal. But I'm not gonna count anything out after that women's javelin comp. Like, crazier things have happened. But I mean, definitely an exciting moment for Martinez to make that global final. And I wonder when was the last time, even in a qualifying round, he finished ahead of Mikolas in anything. So he's he's got a little bit of bragging rights heading into this final. But for Mikolas, like, he ended up throwing 65.39 and not terrible, but kind of confusing because, like, the big cues in this one were Daniel Stahl, who went 69.90 on his first throw. Championship Stahl is just ridiculous. You know, the last time he was on this stage, he threw 71.46 in round 6 to win the world title in Budapest. Now he's opening he's going first attempt almost 70 meters in qualifying. Um, so who knows what he's gonna be able to do today. And I am kind of, kicking myself for not putting him on my podium because I never should have doubted Daniel Stahl at a world championship. Christian Che also got the auto cue, first round throw of 68.08. He said it felt really, really easy. Martinez, and then Matty Denny was the fourth and final guy to pick up a big cue, going 66.63, which it's definitely encouraging to see out of Denny because his he took like 2 months off after a really crazy start to the season. And then he was in Brussels and Zurich. And between Brussels, Zurich, and this qualifying round, this is his best mark. And he said, like, I was throwing 66 mid, like, really trying to hit one in the Diamond League final. And now I go 66 mid, and it feels like really, really easy in this qualifying round. So I do think those last two Diamond Leagues were kind of just an aberration. And Mr. Denny is going to do some damage tonight, which is exciting to see. Two Germans get in. Henrik Janssen went 66.47, barely missed the auto cue. And then Mika Sosna was the last guy in at 64.99. Steven Richter finished 13th. So Germany almost had 3 guys in. But then I think it was in the third round of Flight B where Mario Alberto Diaz of Cuba went 65.66. Alex Rose made it in, which is really cool to see. Connor Bell as well. So looking at like Oceania, their representation in this one, they've got Matty Denny, Alex Rose, and Connor Bell. So that's really, really fun. I think they're gonna be able to do some damage. And then Lucas Weiss Heidinger hasn't been the easiest season for him, but he went 65.91, I think, on his second throw. And then I believe he didn't take his third. So this is a guy that I think he medaled in Doha, I want to say. Let me check real quick. La-di-da-di-da. Oh, okay, so he was bronze in Tokyo, the last time we were here, and he was also bronze in Doha. Look at me go. But yeah, I mean, this is I think I think he's thrown 66 this year, but this is one of the best throws of his season. And he's a guy that we've seen step up in championship finals. So tonight is going to be absolutely incredible. Um, I don't see unless if it rains, what's the forecast look like? Um, it's a lot hotter today than oh man. Says there's a 30% chance of rain from 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. And the discus final starts at 8:10. Don't love that. If the weather holds off, I don't see a world where it doesn't take 70 to podium. Um, but yeah, I mean, regardless of the marks, like I think both shot put competitions have shown us that the marks don't need to be big for the competition to be fun. And like even if, some people have bad days, like it's still just this is one of the greatest fields ever assembled. And so just soak in every moment of it while you can, regardless of the results. All right, that was a lot of yapping about, I guess, the last 2 days of throwing here at Worlds, and today, I don't want it to be over, but today's the final day of the World Championships. This week has been so much fun, and we're capping it off with one of the best competitions of the entire meet. We're closing that out tonight, so it's gonna be a good one. I can't wait. The meet ends an hour earlier tonight than it has been, which is nice. TBD on if I will be doing, I'll probably try and go live tonight and get all my interviews up and stuff, but we shall see. I don't know if there'll be any, post-meet festivities, but I will keep you guys posted on Twitter and Instagram about when I'll be going live to recap men's discus. But thank you guys for watching. Those of you that did watch, apologies for not getting this up last night, but I made it through this whole thing without yawning once, which definitely would not have been the case at 2 in the morning. So I'm proud of that, and I hope you guys appreciate that fact. But stay tuned for interviews and updates from Discus today on Paulie Throws on Instagram, P. Hoff Mahoney on Twitter. Please like, subscribe, follow the podcast on Spotify. If I'm sorry about the Spotify uploads being super late because I don't know. Trying to download live streams from YouTube Studio is a nightmare and it takes a really long time. So that's why those have been kind of inconsistent, but oh well. But yeah, thank you guys for watching. I will see you guys next time. Now, time for me to do the really awkward thing where I end the stream. Yay!